Being a developer extends beyond knowing how to code. Ever feel overwhelmed on what you need to know? David Pietrzykowski discusses his top tips to help you stand out as a developer. Welcome to 100 Days of Trailhead, where the tech community comes to learn Salesforce, learn tech, get inspired, and invest in ourselves. We are your trail guides, here to support you on your learning journey. We release videos weekly. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. In the description below, you can find links for everything we mention in this video, as well as books and resources we found useful. Visit our blog, 100daysoftrailhead.com, for other helpful Salesforce and tech content. Ever wonder what the difference between a good developer and a great developer is? In this video, David Pietrzykowski discusses how his tips can help you stand out among other developers. David was well on his way to a career as a lawyer when his life was sidetracked by a year abroad in Australia and a newly born passion for surfing. He learned to code so he could solve his own problems and landed a job as a Salesforce developer shortly after. He instantly fell in love with the ecosystem and hasn't looked back since. Your quest, should you choose to take it, is to journey with us to learn what qualities make a great developer. Your quest begins now.
Hi, my name is David Pietrzykowski. I am a Salesforce developer from France. Today, I'd like to share with you 5 tips to become a better developer. If you're just starting out, those tips should help you improve and get up to speed faster. If you already have some experience, I hope you'll still find them useful. So let's begin. Number 1, always start with why. This one is particularly important because it doesn't apply to Salesforce development only, but to life in general. Always look for the why in what you're doing, and the rest is gonna get much easier. This is called the golden circle, and the why is at the center of it. It's the end goal, the meaning. And sometimes the why is not what we think it is, so the sooner you'll get it and the sooner you can adapt. The how is basically the big picture. In terms of Salesforce development, it's your project and your org. You need to analyze how your work is going to fit into the existing architecture and also what impact it can have. This part is critical because if you have the big picture in your mind, you'll definitely make better choices, and a good developer makes good choices. Only once you have the why and the how, you can start working on the next step. And the next step is the what, the development, the code. The biggest mistake I see is usually going straight to the what and starting coding without understanding the why and the how. So if you want to be a better developer, you need to adopt a consultant mindset. You need to question basically everything. Do not start doing something if you don't understand the why and the how. By doing that, sometimes you'll discover that what you've been asked to do is not actually what they want you to do, or maybe that it could be done differently. So just don't hesitate to say it, because this is also what you can bring to the table, your value as a developer. By starting with why, you will improve your work by asking better questions, by being more curious, and making better choices. Number 2, be a great admin first. To be a great developer is to know how to leverage the standard features of Salesforce. You need to know their limits and only then extend them with code. In my opinion, the best way to do that is to study and pass your admin certifications. When you study for certifications, you're being exposed to a lot of different use cases and solutions. Even though you won't remember them all, you'll definitely know where to look for and that it exists. It also helps you stay up to date with new features and announcements. The second reason to be a great admin first is that you'll know when to use code and when you should not. The whole philosophy of Salesforce is click, then code. Do not replace anything that you could do with standard features with your code. If there is something you could do without code, you should. So to be a better developer, you need to have more than one tool in your bag, and you need to know when you can use a screwdriver instead of a hammer. So stay up to date with new feature announcements, because some things that you might keep doing in code might now be available as the standard features, and you should use it. Number 3, learn how to use Git. Git is a version control tool used to manage your source files. In our case, it's our org's metadata. And if you've been following the development of Salesforce DX, well, you probably know how important source control is becoming. And this is a really good thing because it brings a lot of nice tools for sharing code, collaboration, and working in a team. If you are a developer in 2021, you need to know what Git is and how to use it. If you haven't started, well, you're missing out, really. The good thing is that you don't need to know much to be efficient. First, have a good understanding of the different branching models. Basically, it comes down to one branch being the source of truth, and it's called main or master usually, and then one or more branches where you make your changes. I would start studying the GitHub flow because, well, it's easier. It only has one main branch and one branch where you develop, and then move on to a Git flow, which is a bit more complicated depending on your structure. Anyway, you'll find some modules on Trailhead to help you getting started, and they're pretty fun, they're pretty nice. Once you have a good grasp on the concepts, then you can start learning the basic commands. And the really good thing is that you don't have that many commands to learn because, well, you use maybe 5 of them most of the time. So, well, know them and you'll already be ahead of the curve. The last thing that will make a difference is how you write your commit messages, because your Git history is made of your commit messages. The better you write them, the easier it will be to navigate your history to see who did what and why. So don't be shy on your details, and somebody will definitely thank you later. Number 4, write clean code. This one comes directly from Uncle Bob, who wrote one of my favorite books of all time, Clean Code. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. It's a bit opinionated, but, well, it gives you a great baseline to make your code easier to work with and more enjoyable too. If you want to be a better developer, it is not enough for your code to work. Well, this will be the minimum, really. What you need to do is write better code, and write code that's easy to understand, easy to work with, and also that can be easily picked up by another developer or another team. Stop writing hundreds or even thousands lines of code in one method. It is really hard to read. We're not machines. We don't compile code. We just read it and try to make sense of it. And sometimes it's really, really painful. Instead, start making smaller functions that only do one thing. What you need to do is abstract the details and create small Lego bricks that you can reassemble and reuse however you want. Give meaningful names to your methods and variables. And it should be easier when your methods are shorter because they only do one thing. When I'm struggling to find a good name for a method, it's usually because either it does too many things or maybe because what it does is not very clear, sometimes even both. When it happens, I usually just split my code, refactor it, and the naming comes much easier. And the same thing applies to your variables. Choose your name with care and it will make your code clearer and easier to read. What I do is I imagine someone else reading the name of the variable and trying to make sense of it without the context. If you follow those simple rules, you will improve the quality of your code drastically. And one thing that will improve your existing code in the long run is the Boy Scout rule. Whenever you're working in a class, either adding some code or updating it, well, take some time to clean it up. Just rename some variables, split some methods, remove also unused code or comments. And, well, it doesn't take long, and if you do this every day, well, at some point your org will be very clean and the quality of your code will be improved. So if you're curious and want to know more, I highly recommend you to read the book because there's plenty of rules and, well, it will definitely make you a better developer if you read it. Number 5. Embrace testing. Chances are that if your code is not clean, the tests you write aren't either, and writing tests is not the part you enjoy the most in your day-to-day job. Rest assured, you're not the only one. This is how we usually learn development. You write your code, and when you feel like you're done, you write your tests. But what you really want is actually to move on to the next shiny thing. So you just write like barely enough tests to cover your 75% requirements and maybe some test cases that you think should pass. And sooner or later, you'll discover that your code has bugs. And bugs have a real cost. It costs the company money in lost revenues, it costs you time and effort to fix it, and it also prevents you from adding real value to the business because you're spending your time fixing bugs. Believe me or not, but writing tests can be enjoyable. You just need to follow some simple rules. The first one is to test early and often, so you don't wait till the last minute to do your tests. This is really handy because when you break something, you don't have to review 2 days of code. You just have to look at what changes you've made since the last time you ran your tests. The second rule is to write fast, independent, and repeatable tests. You don't want your tests to pass on the weekday and fail on the weekend. Also, since you're testing early and often, you don't want your test to take 15 minutes to execute because you can't wait 15 minutes every 10 minutes. So make your test as fast as possible. You can do that using stubs, mocks, or even dependency injection. If you follow the rules of clean code, testing your methods is easier because, well, it's split and one function does one thing. So when you have to write your test, it's much easier because it's clear in your mind that what it does and what it does not. One more thing you should try to become a better developer is to write your tests first. There is a whole movement of developers doing what's called test-driven development. And it is definitely worth a try because once you start writing tests properly, you'll start enjoying it and you also stop worrying that you'll break the entire org every time you have to touch a piece of code. So do yourself a favor and learn how to write good tests and stop living in fear.
And with that, we're at the end. What quality do you think is important to have as a developer? Comment below. We also would love to hear what video topics you want us to cover in future videos in the comments. If you made it to this point, we want to take an opportunity to say thank you. Since you've stayed with us, let's listen as David provides a bonus tip.
Oh, and one more thing, just read more code. You need to keep on learning new things every day, and reading more code is a great way to do it. First, start reading your old code, as painful as it sounds, because this is a great way to see how far you've gone and how much you've improved since you wrote it. Then get familiar with Salesforce recipes. It is full of best practices and patterns that you can learn and implement in your own projects. This one is more tricky, but if you want to take your coding skills to the next levels, you have to know how to use Apex Enterprise patterns. The FFlib is a great implementation of it, so just try to read through it and see how it goes. Last one, and one of the most important one actually, is to perform code reviews, because no matter how good or bad your code is, you will never know until you get feedbacks. So learn how to accept and also give feedbacks, and your skills will skyrocket. And that's it for me. I really hope you've enjoyed those tips and found them useful. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for spending time with us. Please like and subscribe to our channel because we share weekly content to support your tech and Salesforce learning journey. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. Connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on 100daysoftrailhead.com, all of which are listed below. Thank you for learning with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.